Well, hello everybody. I am so excited to be here with you this morning for a live devotion. My name is Chris, in case you didn't pick it up from the little title thing, and I'm so excited to be here from a special place to me. I am actually sitting at about the halfway point of my favorite 5-mile running path that I run about 3 times a week or so. And again, this is just a really special place to me. There's been a bench here, and I've often wanted to sit down and sometimes rest and stop, but I've always wanted to just kind of sit here and think for a little while, and now I get to do that this morning with all of you. So I'm excited to be here, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But first, I want to let you know this has been Spiritual Discipline Week, and there have been some amazing devos on spiritual disciplines. I've absolutely loved watching them. If you haven't caught all of the others, they were so fantastic. I'd encourage you to go back and watch them all. But I have a question for you this morning. I want to hear your answers. Type them out in the comments. I'm going to read a few of them in a little bit. What is something, a skill or an ability that you are proud that you can do? I want to hear you brag on yourself a little bit. What is a skill or ability that you are proud that you have? Something that you are just so, I get to do this, I can do this. I'm so excited about that. Now, I'm going to read a few of those in a little while, so I want to hear your responses. But for me, like I said, I'm on my favorite running path right now. That thing is long distance running. I love running long distances. I absolutely enjoy it so much. And for me, it's almost along the lines of a spiritual discipline. I get to ask God questions, I get to think, I get to talk to Him while I'm running, and I absolutely love it. But sorry, we had a little phone problem there. I remember a story that it was just something that somebody said to me that was just blew my mind. It was my senior year of high school. I'd been running cross country for several years, and I was really in the habit of running long distances, and I really enjoyed it. But I remember the day in the lunchroom, one of my classmates came up to me, and we were talking about running, and I was saying how much I enjoyed it, and they said to me, well, you're just a naturally good runner. You're just naturally great at that whole running thing. And I remember I laughed. I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? They're like, oh, you're just good at that. I'm not good at that. You're good at that naturally. And I said, what? Because I remembered the first time that I ran. I remembered the very first time that sorry, my phone is having trouble. I remember the very first time that I ran. I remember when I was in 7th grade, I was in the Boy Scouts for like a month. And the first time I ran any significant distance, I was told by my scout leader to go and run a 1/4 mile. And they were going to time me, and that was it. And so my dad got out the stopwatch, and I started to run, and I ran a 1/4 mile, and I finished the race, and my dad stopped the stopwatch, and we gave the time to my troop leader, and he looked at the time, and he said, that's not running, that's walking. And so he wrote walk next to my run time, and I was just shocked. I was like, what do you mean? What's going on? And that was the first time I'd run any distance. Shortly after that, I was in tackle football, which I do not have the build for tackle football. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing with football. And somebody offered me the opportunity to say, hey, what if you joined the cross country team in 7th grade instead of tackle football. And I was like, yes, absolutely, anything else other than getting just smashed and tackled all the time. So I joined the cross country team, and 4 or 5 years later, after so much struggle, I knew all of the difficulty, I knew all of the challenges. I had run thousands of miles, I'd poured blood and sweat and tears into it. I was leading our cross country team, which was only 5 people, so not an enormous accomplishment, but I was leading it with the fastest times, and I had somebody come up to me and say, "You're just naturally talented at running." You see, they didn't see the struggle behind my success. They didn't see what was all the work that was put into what I was doing. In fact, it's been suggested right now that I show kind of an example. This is a running shoe that I've had for about a year. It's a miracle it's lasted a year. And the treads, they used to be deep and thick, but they are completely gone. And all of you are listing so many fantastic things that you have the ability to do, whether it's play music, whether it's be in theater, whether it's accomplish goals like exercising or lifting weights or running. I love all of those things. But my guess is there was a time in your life when you couldn't do those things. That's why you're proud of them right now. And you know, that's part of how God designed us. God designed us sometimes being unable to do things, and He gave us a path so that we can become able to do those things. And that path is called discipline. Now, there is so much joy for me in running. I get so much joy out of running, and I bet that many of you get the joy out of the disciplines that you practice too. And it's pretty obvious to see, how does joy come out of these disciplines? Well, it comes out of theater when you get to perform. When you get to be in a show, there's so much joy there. Or in music, when you get to perform a song or a solo that you've been working on for a long time. In running, for me, the joy shows up, I think, when my kid, who I get to push in a stroller as I run, that's fun, when my kid says, "Daddy, let's go that way," and I say, yes, I have the energy and stamina to go that way, and it's so fun and so exciting for me. But do we ever do what I was just talking about with spiritual disciplines? Do we ever look at somebody and say, oh, they're just naturally more gifted than me at spiritual disciplines? They're just naturally better at reading the Bible. They're just naturally better at praying. They're just naturally better at spending time with God, at solitude. I know I've been tempted to say that. I've been tempted to look at pastors and others and say, oh, they're just naturally good at that. But that's not true. And I want you to know that this morning. Nobody is more naturally connected to God than you are. Nobody, no pastor, no theologian is more naturally connected to God than you are. But in spiritual discipline, just like in all of the physical disciplines that I've been talking about, discipline is the path from beginning to joy, from struggle to joy, from even failure to joy. The path is always discipline for everybody. Whether you're a pastor or theologian, whether you're a mechanic, whether you're an artist, whether you're whatever you are, a parent, the path to joy and spiritual discipline is discipline. And that's the same for everybody. Now, your spiritual walk isn't going to look the same as everybody else's spiritual walk. But the path for all of us is discipline. And that's so important for you to know before I read this passage in Hebrews 12. I'm going to read verses 1 through 6. Okay? And the author of Hebrews has just listed a whole bunch of people that ran the race, that lived the Christian life super well. And he writes, "Therefore, since we also have such a large cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that lies before us, keeping our eyes on Jesus, the source and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that lay before him endured a cross and despised its shame and has sat down at the right hand of God's throne. For consider him," that's Jesus, "who endured such hostility from sinners against himself, so that you won't grow weary and lose heart. In struggling against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood, like Jesus did. And you have forgotten the encouragement that addresses you as children. My child, do not take the Lord's discipline lightly or faint when you are reproved by him. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves and corrects everyone who he receives as his child." What an amazing, amazing set of verses. The Lord disciplines the one he loves. Now, there are a few things that I think these verses show us. The first one is that joy is not accidental. Joy is not instant. It is not something that just happens to us. We're walking around one day and suddenly we're like, wow, I have joy. That's not just something that happens. It says Jesus, for the joy set before him, the joy that lay before him, endured. He endured a cross. He endured something, the worst thing that we can possibly imagine. And so the author says, how much more can we endure? How much more can we endure the smaller things that face us in life? A while ago, I had a student come up to me and I had been encouraging them to try solitude. And they said, hey, I tried solitude and that just didn't work. And I was like, what do you mean it didn't work? Like you couldn't be alone? Like what happened? And they said, no, I tried an hour of solitude and my life didn't change. I didn't have better relationships, nothing. I tried it for an hour and it didn't work. I said that it doesn't work that way with any other discipline. It doesn't work that way with running. I can't run a mile and say, wow, I'm so fit now because I ran 1 mile. That's not how it works. You have to keep on doing that over and over and over. And that is when you're going to find the joy in spiritual discipline. But the second thing I think that we can see in these verses is that spiritual discipline is not a punishment. Spiritual discipline is not something that we can look and be like, oh man, I have to do that again. That's not God's goal for this. It's also not something that is for God's benefit. In fact, it says in verse 10, it says, God does this for our benefit so we can share in his holiness. What an amazing thing. This isn't for God's benefit. God has given us spiritual discipline for our benefit. It's purely for us so that we can find joy, so that we can find hope. So God gives us these things for our benefit. The third thing that I think we can see is that everyone's at a different place in spiritual discipline. When I'm out here running on this path, often I pass people and often people pass me. And I've been tempted to think before, oh, I'm doing so well because I passed this person on this path. Or, man, I'm not doing well today. Somebody else passed me. But the reality is, I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know if they're on mile 1 or mile 10. I don't know if they started running yesterday or 2 years ago. I have no idea. And so I can't be too rushed to judge people. I can't be too hurried to say, oh, I'm doing so much better. The same thing I think is true of spiritual disciplines. The same thing is absolutely true. I don't know if somebody started following Jesus yesterday or the last year or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I have no idea. I don't know what they've overcome. I don't know what obstacles are in their life. And so I think this shows us we've got to be really, really gentle and gracious with spiritual disciplines. Finally, the other thing this makes me think of is that when I run, my goal isn't to find joy. I don't say, hey, I'm going to leave the house, I'm going to run until I find joy, till I'm happy. That's not really how it works. My goal always is to get home. I have the goal of getting home. In our spiritual walk, our goal isn't necessarily to find joy. There's no guarantee that when we do a spiritual discipline, we're going to feel amazing and have this mountaintop experience. That's not always going to happen. our goal is Jesus. It says, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. Keep your eyes fixed on him. That's your goal. And along the way, you'll get so much joy, hope, love, peace. Those are the wonderful things that come with God's spiritual disciplines that he gives us. The gifts of spiritual discipline, the gift of joy that he gives us. So I want to challenge you today. I want to give you a little bit of a challenge. What spiritual discipline could God be challenging you to lean into this weekend? What spiritual discipline could he be putting on your heart to say, I'm going to try that? Maybe it's something new. Maybe it's something old that you could try in a new way. What spiritual discipline could God be leading you toward this weekend? You could choose from Bible reading, prayer, solitude. There are, again, some great suggestions from this past week. Listening. These are all spiritual disciplines that you can try to grow closer to God. And like Dr. Clark said on Monday, to align your heart with his heart. Because that's what it means to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. And that's an amazing goal of spiritual discipline. I want you to commit to doing that spiritual discipline by commenting it. Put it in the comments, throw that in there, and commit in front of all of us. Say, I'm going to try this spiritual discipline. It's not a forever commitment, but just say, I'm going to try it out this weekend. I'm going to try it out this next week. This is what I'm going to do. If you are like, I have no idea where to start, I need a coach, maybe, I've got a couple resources for you that I think could be really helpful. These changed the way that I saw spiritual disciplines. The first one is a book called Radical Hospitality. It's by a Benedictine monk, Father Daniel Homan, and a woman who is heavily involved with their monastery, Lonnie Collins Pratt. Fantastic book. This has some of the most amazing stories about spiritual discipline that I have ever read. It makes me cry every time. It's amazing. The second one is The Making of an Ordinary Saint by Nathan Foster, who is the son of Richard Foster, who literally wrote the book on spiritual disciplines. This is his son's personal story with spiritual discipline. It's powerful, it's relatable, it's incredible, and he walks through several concrete spiritual disciplines that we can practice today. But for me, the spiritual discipline that I have chosen to practice and that I'm going to practice right now is prayer. And I want to pray for all of you. I'm going to pray for as many of you as I possibly can. In fact, when I turn off this video, I'm going to sit on this bench and I am going to pray for as many of you as I can. So comment anything you want there. Comment just your name, comment a blank post if you want, and I will pray for you. But if you want to comment a prayer request and I could pray for something specific for you, I would absolutely love that as well. So go ahead and put that in the comments as well. But right now I want to finish by praying for all of us together. Here we go. God, thank you for every person watching this video, whether 7 a.m., whether later on. God, thank you for the gifts that you give us of spiritual discipline, the opportunity to know you better, of joy that you give us so freely and so readily. Help us to align our hearts with yours today and this weekend and every day as we go forward. God, you are the goal. You are the one that we need more than anything else in this world. So thank you, God, for so freely giving and revealing yourself to us. We love you, God, in your name. Amen. All right, everyone, I am so thankful that you were here this morning. It is so great to see all of you virtually. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone.